Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 69 of Preston Jensen's podcast. If you're new here, I'm your host, Preston. Tonight, I'm joined in studio by a very special guest who's going to give us a big-time education on anime, Japanese manga. Am I saying that right?
Yep, that's right.
And probably a lot of other stuff. And this is going to be one of my hardest interviews. And I told Alex this before the show that this is going to be a tough one for me because I know nothing on the subject. But I know it's a huge topic on the internet. I know there's a huge following. So I wanted to bring him on. So maybe if you guys are like me, you'll learn a little bit more about the subject. So without further ado, welcome Alex Bernhardt to the show.
Yeah, good to be here, Preston.
It's nice when someone takes time out of their day to come onto my show, but I have to say, looking at all the material he brought with him, he did his homework before coming on. How much time did you take to prepare for this episode?
Not as much as you would think. A lot of that stuff I just kind of had on hand and, I don't know, reached a few things out of my bookshelf, took some notes for like half an hour. It wasn't bad, really.
Well, it's going to be awesome to learn about this stuff. Maybe you can just start off by giving us a little backstory about what we're going to be talking about today.
Sure. Well, basically, if the question is like, what is anime? The short answer is that it's basically a style of Japanese animation. And usually it comes from manga, because I can't really talk about anime without first going into manga. And maybe first thing I'll mention is people who are maybe like you who are like completely unaware of like what it is should probably know that it is Japanese. It's not Chinese. A lot of people kind of like mix that up to actually pretty vastly different cultures and governments, but that's not really important. But it's Japanese, just FYI.
That's interesting to note because when I did a little research on the internet today, is there a Korean tie?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit, okay. Because I looked up the word and basically Japanese manga, they broke it down and it just basically means comic books published in Japan.
That's
Is
exactly
that correct?
That's exactly right.
Okay, awesome. So starting off with that, tell us a little bit about some of the stuff you brought today.
Yeah. First of all, I also want to add the factoid: the Japanese and the Koreans hate each other.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
See, I know nothing about that.
Yeah, I don't know why that is, but they do. So yeah, the first manga I brought here is called Devilman. The reason I started with that is because it's probably one of the oldest ones that I got. Like I don't know like how far like manga really goes back, but definitely like quite a ways. Devilman is that like the copyright date on this is actually 1972. So this is like quite old, if you can see from the camera here.
And for those of you listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, if you want to check out my YouTube channel, Alex is going to be showing us a few pages from the books that he brought with him today. And one interesting thing to note, and I think you'd previously told me this, when you opened up that book, you opened it up backwards.
That's right.
And so what is the story behind that? Is that just on translation? And is that hard to get into a book when you're reading it completely backwards?
Yeah, it's not like completely backwards, but you do like flip it around. It's not, yeah, it's right to left, not left to right like we read it, but like the comic book, the audio bubbles are arranged in a way that it actually flows a lot better than you think. But yeah, it's kind of funny. It's like I'll put down a manga and then pick up like an American comic, like, you know, like, I don't know, Batman or something. And that's like, I have to remember, it's this way now.
So when you open it up and you're reading from right to left, when you open it up, are you reading from right to left on that page? Or do you open it up from right to left and then read left to right?
I'll just do a quick demo here.
Yep.
Basically, so when you turn the page like this,
yep,
you start in like a upper right-hand corner like this, and you just go left, and it kind of goes like...
All right, so you go left to right the whole way through.
Yep.
And does American comics take a lot of inspiration from the original Japanese manga?
Some might, but I don't think so.
Okay. And what are some of your favorite writers?
Oh, my favorite writers. Probably Kentaro Miura is a big one, because he wrote Berserk and just passed away at 53, I believe, or something like that, this past May. He was in his 50s.
And one of the things that you were telling me about before this show is that when he passed away, the story ended.
That's right.
And so you said you don't know if he's got a team or anything that's going to be able to continue his comics. But, you know, when I think of comics, I think of things like Batman and stuff like that, where when you showed me one page from his book, it was like a piece of art that would have taken, you know, someone a lot of time to get that one page done. And you, how many pages do you think he has wrote in his lifetime?
I can't tell you how many pages, but like chapter 364 like just came out.
Oh my. And was that still
It was the one that they were in the middle of.
Oh.
Yeah.
So have you heard, for all the fans of, what's the comic called?
Berserk.
Are they going to continue that comic?
We have no idea. I think right now the general consensus is that, yeah, we're hoping to, because basically what happened is that after he passed, he left his well-trained assistants that are, you know, well-versed in his art style. I think that they're going to do it, but we're really not sure, because there's a lot of like licensing stuff that needs to go over and stuff like that.
I suppose when he passed away, some of the family got some of the rights to it. And I suppose, well, you know, all that can get very complicated. So hopefully, for the fans' sake, they're able to continue, and hopefully they discussed an ending before. I don't know if it was a sudden death or what, but that sounds like a terrible loss for the community.
Yeah, like I remember like waking up that day and like opening up on like my phone and just seeing that news article, and I was just like stunned. I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Right, because for those of you who are listening, Alex was telling me that he is a huge fan. And how long have you been reading his story?
Not that long, surprisingly. Let's see. I would say maybe 8 years.
Wow. See, for me, for someone who doesn't like reading too much, I have trouble spending a month on a single book. So for someone to read for 8 years and be that dedicated, I would consider yourself an expert on the subject. So.
I mean, that's how long I've like been into the material, but I kind of I had to like gather it all together, and then I pretty much read it within like 2 months.
Okay.
And that's like 40 volumes.
40 volumes
yeah.
is what? Oh, wow. That's unbelievable.
It goes faster than you think, though. Comics are faster than just a regular book.
So are the comics for Japan, are they like America, like Batman, where they come out with movies on the comic books, or TV shows? Like I know The Walking Dead is a hit. I personally didn't know that it was a comic before it was a show. And the more and more, you know, like there's another show, I think it's on Netflix, called The Boys. And I know after I watched the show, I found out that, hey, that was a comic too. And it seems like there's a lot of shows coming out that are based off of old comics. Is that the same with the Japanese writings?
You know, it's so weird because like over here in America, like comic books, when you think of comic books, it seems to be kind of more like a niche interest, right?
Right.
Like when you were in high school, it was stereotypically maybe like nerds who read comic books. But like in Japan, it's so weird. Like manga in Japan is everywhere. Like it's super common.
Okay.
Yeah, and like that, weirdly enough, I actually heard this factoid that if you're like driving through Okinawa, there's actually a lot of car accidents because like a lot of people are just like watching anime on like the TV screens in their vehicles.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so they've got TV screens on their vehicles, and when you bring up anime, that's just like
right. That's yep. So that would be like the visual adaptation of the manga.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, and that's all TV shows then, basically.
Yep.
Is that like? Because I had some friends in college on the baseball team that liked. I'm trying to think of the name now. Not Pokemon, the other one.
Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that a comic as well?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, it seems like a lot of people take the comics, turn them into TV shows or movies, and they become hits. So Talk about some of the other books here. It looks like you've got a whole stack. Are these just your favorites, or?
Well, okay, my reasoning for bringing like these particular ones is just so I could kind of show you like the evolution over the years of like art styles.
Okay.
So I showed you Devilman. That was from like, that's an old one. That's from like the 1970s. This one I got here is Rig Veda. This one's this one's as old as I am. It's from 1992 actually. Yeah. Let's see.
And for those of you listening, yet again, if you want to see some of the pages that he's showing us, head on over to my YouTube channel, and you can see how the art has changed over time. And just in your honest opinion, would you say that these books have gotten better over time, or do you like the older ones better?
I think it really depends on the author. I think. I think let's see. I'd say like my favorite genre is unquestionably like dark fantasy. I think I have like a bias like towards that, but I have like actually like Rig Veda, the one I just showed, is actually a shoujo manga, and what that means is that it's actually it's weird. It's kind of geared like that genre is kind of geared more towards like young women actually.
Okay.
But I was kind of like caught off guard. I was like, okay, it's got like pretty good reviews. I was like, what the heck? I'll check it out. And it's actually, it's kind of like a pretty good like action adventure story with, there's like romance in it, but it's actually pretty like violent too. I was like, oh, this is actually pretty good. I was like,
so, but it's geared towards women, you said.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, whereas like if you're like, questioning people about manga or anime, they'll probably bring up like shonen. So like shonen is probably the most popular genre. It's geared towards like maybe like either young men or like teenage boys. Like some of the biggest titles of that include like, Naruto and Bleach and One Piece.
I'll be honest, I haven't heard of any of those, but you're talking about different genres of it. What are what are the main ones that you'd say are the most popular?
Yeah, well, I guess I was talking... okay, there's a difference between like genre and demographic. I guess I was talking about demographic. Yeah, the shonen is probably the most popular demographic.
Okay.
Yeah. Or like there's like seinen. Seinen is kind of geared towards a bit like older audiences because it tends to have more like explicit content.
Okay.
Like Berserk or like Vinland Saga would be examples of that.
And are some of the comics, are any of them based off of true stories, or are most of them based off supernatural?
Well, that's why actually I brought No Longer Human here.
Okay.
This is since you like asked about authors, another one of my favorite authors is Junji Ito, and he is basically like the Stephen King of Japan.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So he writes a lot of like scary stuff, but like No Longer Human is actually mostly based on a true story.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's dark.
Oh, well, that sounds spooky. I probably won't be reading that. I don't like that kind of content, but
I'll show the cover here to the camera.
Yep. So check it out on YouTube. You'll be able to see the cover. It looks spooky from my perspective, but it is interesting to note that all these comics are not necessarily all fiction, and so it's kind of cool to see that. Some of the stuff is based off true events.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is that most of it? Or see, when I think of anime and comics and stuff, I think of Batman, I think of Spider-Man, I think of stuff like that, the supernatural.
You'd be right. The vast majority of it is fiction. Like No Longer Human is just like one example of like a manga that had some truth to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and another thing Alex brought here, he brought I don't even know what it is. It's a favorite Japanese beverage, pop.
Yeah, it's so this is called
actually from Japan.
Yeah, I'll just show this. I'll show this to the camera here.
Yep, show it to the camera because it's very neat. It's one of the things I noticed right off the bat, and I don't know if this is just coincidence, but their portion sizes much smaller than what we have over here in America.
They are indeed. So what that is that it's called ramune, and it's Japanese soda.
That's very cool. And does this have any ties to the anime stuff? Or is there characters on this, or is this?
Yeah, you can actually see characters from Naruto on there. Although I guess.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, although I guess this is technically a Boruto, which is a continuation, a side story, I guess you could say. But
oh, very cool.
Yeah,
and. If I look at the characters on the front of this, they look like video game characters to me. are a lot of these adapted into video games?
Yeah, actually, Shonen Jump is like a video game that's it's basically just a fighting game with a bunch of like shonen like anime characters in it. Or actually like, Tales of Arise just came out. The Tales series is basically just like completely that art style, very anime, very Japanese.
And I would assume that would be a very difficult game to make it look like the actual comics, to adapt it into a video game. How about like, I am a video game player, so I do know some video games, but how about like a video game like Cuphead? Is that based off of something like this? Because I think of that as kind of like a comic book video game, but maybe it isn't. I don't know.
I don't think so. I think that's just like based on like really old like American artwork.
Okay.
I don't think
more like Japanese. Is it more like Mickey Mouse kind of style artwork? That's what it kind of reminds me of.
That's what I would call it, yeah.
The one thing I do know about this is a side note, nothing to do with this podcast, but that video game is probably one of the hardest video games of all time. I remember one of our friends trying to beat it, and it was nearly impossible. So, well, what else would you like to talk about in regards to Japanese manga or maybe even American comics?
Well, first I'm just going to open up the soda here so how it works.
Okay, yeah.
Because, for the people who can't see it, basically it comes in like a glass bottle, and we have this tab here that you just put on like this glass ball here. And
okay.
It takes a bit of force.
Wow.
Yeah, and then you can see like the ball drops down there, and that's actually what carbonates it.
No way. Now that is the coolest thing I've seen. That is very neat.
Yeah, and when you drink it, you just make sure that like this ball like kind of lands on this like wedge here.
So really, it's not a carbonated drink until it hits that little ball there.
I think that's how it works. Yeah.
That is interesting, and like, I had no idea what this was, but now I'm looking at this. This is one of the coolest things I've seen, and you guys have to check this out on YouTube because it is totally different than how we drink pop. Usually, we just open up the lid and there you go. But this, it almost looks like a marble in there or something. But yeah, definitely check out Alex's demonstration on that on my YouTube channel because that is very neat. That caught me off guard. I actually just thought it was a twist top and very cool.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier how how it like the portion sizes are a lot smaller.
Much smaller. Yep.
Like if I were reaching in my fridge and grab a can of Pepsi, there's 150 calories in that. This has like nearly half that at 70.
Does this use real sugar? I guess I don't even know, but that. Let's see.
It does have high fructose corn syrup in it.
Okay, so there is a little sugar and there is a little. I mean, it's not 100% healthy for you, but it is a much smaller portion. So
yeah, not nearly as much, and it's definitely a lot less sweet. It's
a lot less sweet. Yeah, that's very cool. Where do you find something like this?
You can. Well, there's a few places you can. I mean, obviously, the most like obvious basic one is like Amazon or like the Asian food market. That's not what I did though. See, I actually found these in one of the comic shops at Comic Junction. You can buy ramune and Pocky there. Pocky is basically like a Japanese snack.
Oh wow! And what does that kind of entail?
Pocky's basically just like he's like really thin like wafer sticks with like chocolate on them. That's all it is.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very neat. So if any of my listeners are interested in any of this stuff, probably check Amazon. Maybe I can find a link for it and link it. If it is on Amazon, I can probably link it into the show notes, and so you guys can check it out. But yeah, very cool. That caught me off guard. That was not what I was expecting. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about in regards to anime? And I know I talked to you the day that author passed away, and I remember you saying this is just horrible for the community because we're going to not only miss out on one of our favorite creators, but you're missing out on your story. So hopefully, for your sake and for all the other fans' sake, they can create the end of that, and you'll be able to see what happens with the ending. But is there anything you're looking forward to in the future from other creators?
Yeah, just well, Junji Ito. Funny I mentioned him. He actually just dropped one of his books last month.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's got another one coming out in December.
Oh wow! So they do give you release dates on when these are coming out, and
Yep.
And is this something you could subscribe to? So whenever these authors come out with a new comic, you could just receive it in the mail and get it on the opener.
I mean, I never have, but you can pre-order them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming also that a lot of this stuff is very collectible. Is this something that you collect, or is there value to all these old books?
I don't know. Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, I'm sure. And I'm sure there's a part of it you probably got to keep it in its original packaging or something. But
I mean, they're valuable to me just because the stories are so good.
Right. Do you read them more than once?
Yeah, sometimes. Usually, I'm always looking for another really good story. I guess.
So every book that you brought here looks like it is Japanese. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Is there any creators, or I should say authors, in America that you're impressed with?
Oh, let's see.
I'm guessing you read like the old Batman and stuff.
Oh, yeah, Scott Snyder had a really good Batman run.
Okay.
Or even like Edgar Allan Poe. I like his stuff too.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, a lot of
did he
stuff.
do comics and stuff? Or
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
But you were asking me about like authors.
Right,
I mean,
true.
I like Edgar Allan Poe. I actually recently read. You can actually get in Barnes and Noble like they do have American stories like say Frankenstein and like Edgar Allan Poe and like Bram Stoker's Dracula. You can find those in actually manga style at Barnes and Noble. I picked them up recently. Yeah.
Okay, so they take the stories and then they translate, or they
turn them into
turn
manga.
them into comics. That's
Yeah.
very neat. That's cool. So there is a huge demand for this kind of content. I mean, just when I looked it up on the internet, I was like, man, I know nothing about this. When I think of it, I just think of the comics and stuff, in the newspaper, and that's about it. But it's a whole nother world, basically.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I mean, yeah, we definitely have like a lot more to cover because yeah, there's actually a pretty good conversation to have like just on like the evolution of that because on the growing like market for it in America.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, because in like the 1970s, when I talk about like when Devilman was made, like manga in America was practically like unheard of. In fact, like even in like Japan, like Go Nagai, the writer of Devilman, was kind of frowned upon. People didn't really want their kids like reading his stuff.
With the title of Devilman, I could see why. I guess,
Yeah.
but yeah, keep going through this. This is good education for me.
Yeah, I would say like it probably wasn't until like maybe like the 80s when like it started to develop like something of a presence, because I think even in the 80s comic conventions like happened, and there were like you would find maybe like the odd person there who would actually know something about it. But I don't think it really like started to pick up until the 90s, because you had like I think actually like Pokemon was a big one. You remember Pokemon was huge.
Absolutely. That's I'd say it's still huge today. I mean, just a couple years ago, I think they were having toys, or actually, when the McDonald's opened up in town here, we got a McDonald's, and I think their first toys were Pokemon cards for the kids' meals. So it's big when McDonald's is giving it away for kids' meals. So
I mean, we could practically almost have like an entire episode just on Pokemon, because it was like such a big part of my childhood.
if we had that episode, we'd have to bring Isaac Olson, who's been on the show in the past, and we'd also have to bring Jacob Olson on the show as well, because both of them I know were big into Pokemon. So and I know you are as well. So so were you a big card collector? Did you get all the?
I had the cards. I had a Pokemon Blue.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you still have the cards? That's a big question, because
Yeah.
I think they're very valuable right now, aren't they?
I'm sure they are. Mine probably aren't, because I didn't take the greatest care of them because I was a dumb kid.
How about, is it the holographic, is it Charizard? The top one to get?
Yeah, funny story about that. It's like, that was the one, like, if you had that, you were the cool kid.
Yep, right.
But it's like, unless you're me, you basically just like, waited years and years until you were like 25 and you had the money to just buy those cards. I like went into the card shop and it's like, all right, I want your Charizard, I want your Mewtwo, like give them all over.
You're not going to risk it opening the packs. You're just going to go in, buy what you want.
That's right.
But now if you do that, those cards are probably, I don't, how much is something like that worth? Would it be $100?
No, I mean, it wasn't that much, like just for me to get those cards, because they probably weren't in like mint condition,
Okay, yep.
But for me just to have them, it wasn't bad. But yeah, if someone was like, someone was like smart enough to actually like keep that in like the sleeve since they were like a kid and hold on, yeah, that's definitely got value.
Get it graded by PSA or something and have them in that. I don't know if it's glass or plastic case. Yeah, that's probably worth quite a bit. But
yeah, but right. So like everyone knows like Pokemon and like the huge like cultural impact that had in the 90s. You've probably heard it. Yeah, I think we mentioned Yu-Gi-Oh, right?
Yu-Gi-Oh, yep.
Yu-Gi-Oh, Digimon, and Beyblade. That was like people's like childhood a lot, and like that's all anime.
Beyblade.
Yeah.
That is Japanese anime?
Yeah.
I did not know that. I've got a nephew who is big into collecting those. They're like little Beyblade tops.
Yep.
And is that what the comics are about?
See, I have personally never found Beyblade manga. I'm sure it's probably out there, but yeah, the anime was unquestionably here during like probably early 2000s or something like that.
Wow. See, I had no idea. See, that's something I've heard of, and the only reason I've heard of it is because of the toys they have today. And like I said, they're like little tops, and you get different versions of them. And you can even get a little ring for them, and they kind of battle each other. So I'm assuming it's kind of like a Pokemon story where the characters battle each other. Is that? Do you know anything about?
Yeah, I mean it's a sports competition of some kind, I guess you could say.
Sounds good.
Yeah. But no, that was like all those four that I just mentioned. That was probably, I mean, obviously Pokemon was the biggest one. That was probably like an instrumental like influence on like anime in the West here. But also do you know anything about the Final Fantasy games? Do you?
I don't know too much about them. I always thought they were cool looking, very cool looking. I never actually got one and got the chance to play one, but I always thought they looked very cool. And is that based off of a comic?
Okay, so those the Final Fantasy games are not based on manga, but there is like, especially in like Final Fantasy X, that's actually my favorite personally. But there's like certain like ways in which they like talk and like show emotion, and they like they animate themselves like in a way that is actually like very anime. That is very much in that style.
Very neat. So they took inspiration from the comics. You said even though it's not necessarily a comic.
Well. Yeah, I mean, it's a Japanese video game that just kind of had like some of like that stylization to it, and like Final Fantasy VII came to America in 1997, and that was a huge hit. And
right,
yeah, that's I think that also played a bit of a part into it too, with kind of like its building of culture over in America.
Very cool.
So getting past the 90s and into like the 2000s, I think the early 2000s was probably when all like the three like most like the biggest titles in a shonen anime were kind of like making themselves over to the West here, or maybe like mid 2000s, because I know like probably other than Pokemon, my first big experience with anime was actually probably when they started showing it on Cartoon Network.
Okay, yep. So I know like Ed, and Eddie from Cartoon Network, but not too. What are some of the shows that you're talking about? Like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh? Is that the shows you're...
Yeah, sort of. But but on Cartoon Network, like, like I would say, maybe like later at night, I would say maybe around like 7, 8 or something like that. They would have like more like these shonen ones, like, Naruto and Bleach and like One Piece, again, the three biggest like shonen ones. You go to like an anime convention, everyone knows who that is because at some point they were watching Cartoon Network, and then they learned about this stuff.
See, that's why I knew you were the guy for this episode, because you not only read this, you're not only a big fan, but you do go to a lot of these conventions. Do you learn a lot at those, or do you meet a lot of cool people who are also tied into the community as well? And
yeah.
I guess Are they anime conventions, or are they called? Is it called Comic-Con or what?
Yeah, some of those conventions like have a different themes. I know, Anime Fargo unfortunately couldn't happen this year, but that one is specifically geared more towards like anime. But of course, it's like other subjects are talked about too, like other fictional characters, like even at like Comic-Con, which I believe is in Canada this year. Like, yeah, I'm sure anime is probably talked about. It's just not the main focus, but like
Okay,
they kind of just cover like nerd culture in general. I guess you could say they kind.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I've seen photos from some of these events that you've attended, and it seems like everyone there dresses up as their favorite characters.
Yeah, we'll have more on that later.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, so people who are like, if you were like, like 11, 12, 13, sometime in like, the 2000s, yeah, chances are, and you were watching Cartoon Network later at night, chances are you probably watched, either Naruto or Bleach or something like that. And that was, or if you watched like Dragon Ball Z, I know that was another big one.
That was a big one. I've heard of that one. So
yeah, a lot of people saw that one. Yeah, and then actually, I remember like on Adult Swim too, they actually started to show like some of the more like, I guess, like mature ones.
Mhm.
Like I know when I was like maybe I don't know, like 15 or so, I remember like Death Note was a big one. Death Note kind of made its way to Adult Swim, and me and my stepbrother watched that, and like Death Note was huge. I remember like that having a huge like explosion in anime. People just loved that one, and it was so weird because it's like Death Note is not really, it's not like an action based anime. It's kind of more like a detective work. It's like cat and mouse. Now there's a supernatural aspect to it too, because what it's about is like this genius high school student finds this notebook, and he finds that like if he writes anyone's name in it, they'll die of a heart attack. And and he can actually specify like how they die.
Oh man. It seems like just hearing a little bit about this, looking at the covers of these books and stuff, it looks like violence is a big part of this. Is it not necessarily violent in every aspect?
I guess. I would say like, shonen stuff has a lot of like, action. A lot of it's like action based just because of its demographic, but not necessarily. I mean, there's like actually, oh yeah, I wanted to bring that up. There's actually, it covers like a wide range of like topics actually. There's romance anime, there's actually sports anime too. Like
wow.
you can actually watch. There's one on Netflix. I don't know if it's still there, but there's this one called Haikyuu.
Okay.
Haikyuu is actually about high school students playing basketball. Actually.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that caught me off guard. I thought it was all.
Oh no, there's definitely like anime covers like a bunch of topics.
Basically anything.
Pretty much anything. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
Actually, one that me and my coworker just finished watching not long ago was one about working out. It was kind of a funny one. It was called "How Heavy Are the Dumbbells You Lift?"
Okay. So I mean, and are these current, or are those ones that were wrote a long time ago as well?
No, Dumbbells is pretty recent.
Okay. Very cool. And where do you find these kind of shows?
You can find them on, I would say, Netflix, or actually I have the Crunchyroll app here on my phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's most, like, is that a app for watching?
Yeah. I'm not going to show the camera this,
right, yep.
but like I'll just show Preston like,
yep.
So yeah, you can like download the Crunchyroll app. It's free, and you can actually watch anime both subbed and dubbed. So you can watch it in Japanese with the subtitles there, or you can just, I think not all of them have English, but I'd say if you want more English dub, you'd probably have to subscribe to Funimation.
Okay, so what do you prefer? Is that something that fans are strict on? Like, hey, we've got to watch this the way it was meant to be with subtitles, or do you like it when they translate?
I knew that was going to come up today. Yep. And like, yeah, this is kind of like a touchy subject. I have no idea why it is. I think there's just some, I don't know. There's just some like, I don't want to call them purists. Some people just really prefer the kind of Japanese like way of speaking. Maybe it is just like the, originality idea behind it, that aspect of it. But I think sometimes if I kind of want to just like, it really depends, I guess I've kind of gotten to the point where I'll just watch either one. If it's on like Netflix, maybe I'll watch it on dub. But like Crunchyroll, it's always easier for me just to watch it in Japanese and, well, read the subtitles along with it.
So how much do you think is lost in the translation? There's got to be a little bit.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about trying to learn the Japanese language just so you don't miss out on any of the little nuances of your favorite shows?
I only know like a few words,
Okay.
like some of like the slang terms.
Oh, that's interesting too, because it sounds like you watch a lot of this stuff. Do you kind of pick up on what they're saying? And
I know that if like at one point one of the characters calls the other baka, it means they're calling him an idiot or
oh,
stupid.
really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you do pick up a little bit on some of this stuff.
Yeah. And there's like the honorifics, like there's like san and chan and senpai, stuff like that.
And I don't know what any of that is, but
we don't really need to go into that. I mean,
Right, so-
you can Google it if you want
Yep.
to. They're basically just honorifics referring to like I think if you're referring to like someone in the senior position, I think it's san, or like it's basically kind of a way of saying sir.
Oh, okay.
Whereas like, oh, I think kun, Kun, is actually referring to, like, if I were to, I mean, obviously this probably doesn't apply to us, but say
Yep.
if you were like my student, I would maybe call you like Preston kun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's
okay.
kind of just referring to someone who's just kind of like lower in rank than you or something
Okay,
like that.
right.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, that's all this interesting stuff. Who knew it would come from basically comics? I mean, and it looks like you've got a lot of other notes on it. Is there anything else we missed?
Yeah. Well,
Probably endless things, huh?
first of all, I can already see, like, if some people are like, you know, as in the anime as like I am, I can already see some people saying like, oh my God, I can't believe he pronounced that wrong. It's not pronounced that way, but whatever. But,
Right. And as far as pronunciation, is it anime or is it manga? Or
yeah, that's how you say it.
that's how you say it? Okay. Yeah,
Yep.
because I was curious because someone asked me today. I said, that's what the show is going to be on today. And they're like, isn't it pronounced differently? I said, I have no idea. We'll learn tonight. So,
So the next thing I want to talk about is actually the emergence of this chat room. Like, I wonder like how many people are gonna like recognize this reference, but like this one's pretty niche. Like I remember like in my teens, like maybe like 14, 15, there was like this online chat room called Gaia Online. And it's not unlike The Sims, but it was like all like anime themed. You could basically create your like own avatar, and you could like play games and like stuff like that, and just like, you know, chat with people. And it was all just like, yeah, the aesthetic of it was very Japanese anime looking.
okay, very cool. So, is that something you were a part of? Is it a video game?
No, it's not a video game. It's just like a chat room, kind of like The
Okay.
Sims. But like, I mean, yeah, I did that for like maybe a couple of years, and then I stopped.
Okay.
Yeah,
And so you go on there, you create your character, and then you just
you just chat with people,
Okay.
play games, collect money, maybe I think like you collect currency to like get new stuff, you know,
very interesting.
unlock new clothes and stuff like that. But yeah, but yeah, I was gonna talk about like how that stuff, like how anime actually like makes its way to America just in
Right.
general.
Yep.
So yeah, obviously like when they take like a manga, like let's say Naruto, they'll basically say like, okay, so now, you know, we want to turn this into an anime. We want to make this a show. So they animate it, and then they do the voiceovers, you know, with their actors, and they subtitle it, you know, for Americans. But you know, when we like as a Westerners like consume it, there might be other like there's other like animation studios in America that will actually like say like, hey, we want to get in on this. We want to get like in on like part of the profit, and hey, like we'll dub this. We'll actually dub this like in English, so like Americans don't have to read subtitles. They can just watch it in English.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
That sounds amazing. So, with that process, you get a bunch of different companies involved. Who basically, is it the originator of the show who gets the royalties for it, or is it just kind of whoever?
yeah.
Like, how does that all work? I guess.
I don't really know the specifics, but I know there's kind of like a risk aspect to it. Like I know there are certain studios that are kind of gutsy, who it's like even if they don't think an anime is gonna sell well, they'll still like go for it anyway. But usually that's not the case. Usually they'll say it's like, okay, we got something like Bleach, huge title.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna do our dubs like over this. It's gonna make us a lot of money. You know, so that's usually what they go for. They go for like bestsellers. They go for like just whatever's like, you know, big or whatever. But I have actually seen a lot more Surprisingly, I have seen increasingly lately a bit more, not as popular stuff, more niche stuff actually start to be dubbed. And yeah.
And I suppose, those episodes might not have as many followers, but I bet a lot of those episodes get a lot more dedicated followers, even though they're lower in numbers.
Yeah, cult followings are definitely a thing.
Right, yeah, I believe it. And especially in something like this, because it seems like, you're a good example of someone who's been following this for a long time. And obviously, I'd say you're a big fan at this point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but actually there's actually kind of a funny story about that. So last winter I watched this anime on what was it? I think it was actually just on YouTube. It was called Ghost Stories.
Okay.
And Ghost Stories in Japan, when they made it like flubbed so badly. It did so badly with the audiences in Japan that like they basically told the American like dub studios like, we don't even care about this, you can have it, we don't even want Ghost Stories, do whatever you want with it. And so the American studio was just like, great, okay, so they dubbed it, but they dubbed like all their lines were made to be hilarious. It wasn't anything like the original.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that kind of like I'm trying to think of that show where they're doing the obstacle courses and stuff, and then they've got what was that show called?
I know what you're talking about, but it is a lot like that. Yeah, I know.
Was it called MXC?
Something like
where
that.
Where they do, I forget, but they're doing like obstacle courses and they're talking in a different language, but they have different subtitles, and I don't know if it's really what they're saying or not, but that sounds interesting. So they just kind of took it, made it their own, and it sounds like people enjoy it. I mean, is it a good show, or is it a flop in America as well?
I mean, like, it's just something to watch and just kind of laughing and be like, look what happened here. Like,
okay.
Yeah, real quickly, I want to show the camera just a page of, so this is another one of Junji Ito's works. It's actually probably his most popular. It's called Uzumaki.
Okay.
And I actually learned a lot about Junji Ito's works and Uzumaki from a panel that I was at Anime Fargo. It was specifically like a horror panel where he was talking all about like the horror manga, but specifically like Junji Ito, just because he's so big over there.
You've never met this author? No. Okay. He's probably just he's too big time, huh?
Am I allowed to show explicit content on the camera? Okay.
Probably not. We'll probably get fined and copyright.
Okay, yeah,
probably taken down on YouTube, but yeah. It's.
I'll just show the cover.
Yep. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, if you want to get Uzumaki, it's a pretty good, scary story.
Don't want to scare any of the kids out there listening or watching, but yeah, it sounds.
Yeah, so I kind of like went over like a bit of like the mainstream success.
Right.
Actually, I want to talk about like this one too. This is a This is a Kame ga Kill. This is the reason I brought this one is to so I showed you some like art styles from the like 60s and like 90s. The reason I showed a Kame ga Kill today is probably because it's kind of one of the more like contemporary art styles. It's a very like it's kind of a more like kind of like modern update.
Yeah, if I'm looking at this right now, I would describe it as what I would think of as a modern comic. And I mean, it doesn't look super different than a lot of the comics I've seen. So it looks very neat, but
yeah, so I can show this. This is safe.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So if you're watching online, you can check out one of the pages from, what was this book called?
Oh yeah, this is called a Kame ga Kill.
And if you take note, the cover is actually the back.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the reason I showed that one is because like that's probably a good example of what the style is. That's a pretty common like art style you use. Obviously, it depends on like the artist, the illustrator. They're all gonna have like different ways of like doing it, but that was kind of just a more like a modern example. And last couple of manga I brought here is just a couple of volumes of Berserk.
And this is the one that you said you don't know if it's going to finish, right?
Sadly, I don't know. But yeah,
it looks cool. It looks like it could turn into, it looks like a cover. I don't know if you've the old game Virtual Fighter.
I don't know what that is. No.
Okay, it looks like the same kind of characters to me, but
oh yeah. See, I just kind of want to show you this real quick. This is the reason I brought this is because like Kentaro Miura's like art style. So by the way, he did like virtually all of this himself. This is basically one guy writing the story, writing all of the art.
I was going to ask you that too. Are the authors usually the person who illustrates the comics, or do they usually have a team of people?
Okay, I don't know the specifics of how that works, but yeah, I know like the artist is sometimes the illustrator, and like some, even if they're not, I know they definitely have like a lot of control and say over what happens with that.
So in this case, though, he writes the stories and he does the comics.
That's right.
Which I would say makes it a lot cooler because it seems like you're able to see the voice come through in the story and in the photos. So.
Yeah. And I just kind of wanted to show you a little bit how like his like art style changed over time. So that's actually volume 1. That came out in like late 80s, like 89, something like that.
And for those of you listening, I would just check out this series so you can see some of this. Maybe go to a comic store or something.
Barnes & Noble.
Does Barnes & Noble have all the volumes of this?
Yeah,
usually?
you can try Barnes & Noble or Comic Junction.
Okay, and this has changed a lot over time?
Right, yeah, so that's volume 1. That came out like a long time ago. This is, so this is like, this isn't the most recent one, but this is like a good example of how his artwork has changed and evolved.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is a big difference. I mean, it's going from the first one. I mean, the art was amazing still. I mean, obviously I couldn't do anything like that, but then going to volume, what is this, 36, the detail is so much more defined.
Yeah,
I mean,
and it's funny because like Kentaro Miura, man, he was such a perfectionist that like he would spend like just like a crazy amount of time like making shit like in his computer, like editing or whatever, like making sure every single pixel was just right. And even when his editor was saying like hurry up, it's like we need you to finish this, he was stubbornly just like nope, it's got to be the way I want it, otherwise I don't care.
And so it probably took a long time for in between.
Berserk was infamous for hiatuses.
Okay, well, I can see why looking at this art. I mean, if you look at it, each little square is literally a piece of art.
Yeah.
I mean, this would take a crazy amount of time to be able to finish something like this. So, boy, if they continue the story, they're going to have to find one good artist to be able to execute that kind of detail and attention to detail, because you look at that, like you said, everything is on point.
Yeah, it's not going to work that way. He does have like a team of assistants that he was like training to like, I would assume, take over for him because he was like having health problems, and he eventually he had like, it wasn't a heart attack, it was kind of like an aortic dissection, and that pretty much just like, you basically drop dead,
Oofta, that's no good. But his work is amazing. I mean, I haven't read his stories, but the artwork is phenomenal.
Yeah, I know. God, that was a sad day. It was just like I got back like after work, and I was like watching all these YouTube videos, these like live reactions of people realizing that basically lost our modern day Shakespeare, and like it was really sad.
I remember running into you that day at the gas station, and I remember you were crushed because he had passed, and I bet he would be super happy to see how he's impacted people's lives, through his stories. And so the time that went into those was not wasted.
Definitely not. Now we can actually, so now that I'm kind of getting into like, present day, like mainstream success, we talked a little bit about conventions.
Right.
Obviously like Comic-Con or like Anime Fargo, stuff like that. So I suppose you probably had questions about like what all goes on there.
Right. I do. I see people dressing up. I see you post photos as different characters and stuff. But yeah, what goes into something like that?
Actually, my most recent cosplay just went up a couple days ago.
I actually saw that. So you'll have to, we'll have to link your Facebook, if you want me to, onto this episode. And if people have questions for you, you'll have to let us know how they can get in contact with you, and maybe you could answer some of their questions.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. But that was actually, it was, of this anime. I did
very neat.
I did a gender bent version of this character right here.
And that character's name is?
That's Akame.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So when people are hearing this, it's not like a Halloween type of thing when Alex talks about his costumes, because, I mean, they are detailed. I mean, I don't know anyone else who has a Batman uniform. It's probably nicer than the costume they use for the movies, really.
Not really.
Well, I mean, it looks very detailed. I mean,
yeah. I mean,
it's pretty impressive.
I was impressed with how good it was.
Right. But then it seems like you take attention to details when you're doing all these other characters as well. So what are the characters you've been in the past?
Let's see. I have done Batman. And by the way, like, obviously these aren't all like anime characters, but
Right.
like,
Yep.
I've done Batman. I've done Ash from the Evil Dead series, Patrick Bateman from American Psycho, Guts from Berserk, the main character from Berserk. Actually, I've done him.
Okay.
Yeah, that was actually probably my favorite one thus far. Actually.
Oh, wow.
And yeah,
Is that the one? I just was turning through the pages there, and I saw a guy with a gigantic sword.
that would be him. Yeah,
That was him. Yep. And I remember the costume. It was pretty cool.
yeah, but no, my inspiration for this most recent one though was pretty interesting, because when I go to these cons, I kind of noticed that you'll have women doing like female versions of male characters.
Right.
And
Yep.
I was like, wow, that's really cool. That's actually like a really good idea. So I know it's like less common for like, guys to do that to like, female characters, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to try a comic. I'm going to give that a shot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So are you going to wear that costume to a convention coming up?
Well, not this year because it got canceled,
Okay.
but maybe next year.
Is there any others around this area other than Fargo?
Well, let's see. I will check out ValleyCon in October.
So you were about to get into it, and then we got sidetracked a little bit. What does go on at these conventions? I've always been curious. What happens at stuff like this? Is there like contests to see who has the best costume or the best rendition of their favorite characters?
That is one aspect of it. Yeah, So the cosplay contests like are a thing, and there's like different categories for it. Like sometimes, I think there's like a beginner level, and they're like a mid tier, and then like upper level or whatever. But there's also like couples. There's a award for like couple cosplay or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's. People don't necessarily like do it just for that. It's just to kind of like, be a fan and, have a good time with people who share a similar interest.
And I bet a lot of those people know everything about these comics you just brought up.
Yeah.
A lot of them. So that's kind of neat. A lot on this channel and a lot on my podcast has to do with YouTube. And I'm curious to know, has YouTube been a place for people to upload their comics and stuff? Like, have you seen more of this content coming out on YouTube?
I've seen like a lot of like reviews of them.
Okay.
And some people just kind of, they might read them and like do their like commentary with them, or with their manga or comics.
Yep.
But yeah,
I have to ask, have you ever thought about doing this? I know it's a big passion of yours. Have you ever thought about starting a YouTube channel talking about anime and Japanese comics?
No, I got too many hobbies.
Too many hobbies.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, that's good.
But yeah, I'll definitely come back if
Awesome.
you want me
Oh,
to.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, so yeah, aside from like cosplay contests, there's also I'd say probably one of the biggest, probably like the biggest reason that people go to cons, like other than just to hang out, is panels. So panels are basically like these like rooms that people will like, or people who have something to say will like rent out, and they'll basically do like, either like a PowerPoint or some sort of like, raise some sort of like question, or like sometimes there's like in panels, sometimes there's like trivia, or there's like debates on like manga or on certain characters or something like that. Maybe they talk about like plot holes and whether that works or something. I don't know, something like that. Yeah, there's just a wide variety of like subjects.
It's like a very detailed kind of like book club, basically. I mean, you dive into each story, and you've got different panels basically dissecting all these books.
I've been to a panel before where they basically, it was like there was like these like heated debates over like who was like the best, you know, leading lady from each like anime or something like that.
And there was people arguing about
Yeah.
it. Oh, really?
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Have you ever
actually.
seen any fist fights go on at these conventions?
No one wants to risk not coming back, so no.
That's right. Yep.
I think there was one guy who said he got like thrown out because he like said something offensive or something. I don't know.
And he was probably defending his favorite character, huh?
I didn't.
That's
even
interesting.
Ask.
That's interesting to me too, because I've often wondered what goes on at those conventions, and
yeah, there's also vendors. There's a room where there's like a ton of merch set up. You know, vendors will have like certainly, I don't know how to describe it. I've seen like, you know, t-shirt vendors or like artwork vendors or like they've got like plushie, or maybe they'll sell Japanese snacks like ramening or pocky.
Cool. Yep.
Yeah, just, you know, people selling merch.
Do they ever sell exclusive content, like maybe an unreleased comic or something like that you can't get anywhere else? Is there incentives like that when you go to these conventions?
Not that I'm aware of. I know they sell like older stuff. They might sell maybe like more niche stuff that you haven't like heard of, or they might like advertise, you know, certain like manga.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Let's see. Oh yeah. Voice actors show up too.
Oh really? Okay. So who are some of the voice actors you've got to hear?
Paul St. Peter is a big one. He visits Anime Fargo a lot. And Paul St. Peter has been a lot, and I mean a lot. He's been in like he's voiced a lot of anime, and I'd say like his biggest role, well, not his biggest, but like one of his like standout roles is probably in Kingdom Hearts.
Oh wow. Yeah. I was actually going to ask about Kingdom Hearts because that's one of the most well-known video games, and it definitely has
definitely has that anime style to it.
It definitely has that style to it. So
but yeah, Paul St. Peter actually voiced the main antagonist from Kingdom Hearts 2. His name is Xemnas.
Oh wow. So he's actually, his voice is in the video game then.
Yeah, meeting him like in a panel was so crazy. I was like, oh my god, that's Xemnas.
Yeah,
like,
so it would that's awesome. Did you get to actually talk to him, or do you just listen at these events? Like, did you get his autograph or anything?
I wish I had at least gotten a photo with him, but he did ask for the sword I was carrying.
Oh, okay.
Because like there was like, it was a joke. There were some people like making noise next door. He just looks at me. He's like, "Give me that sword." He's like,
"Oh, so you actually interacted with this guy?
Yeah.
That's very cool." So, and you said he commonly comes to the one in Fargo?
He was supposed to come this year until it got canceled, so
Okay.
that's a huge bummer.
That is a big bummer, and hopefully they have it next year. I mean, have they said if they're going to hold it next year?
Hopefully.
Well, if not, you're going to have to try and find another one in the area. Maybe Minneapolis or something would have something like that. But
one other thing I forgot to mention about like the vendors, and I can't believe this slipped my mind, but they also sell figurines of like certain anime characters.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I haven't like, I don't really have many of those. Some people have a lot of them. I've only gotten one from like it was a character from One Piece, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I was like,
I always like the kind of little characters and stuff. I always have my wrestlers up here,
Yeah.
and I like that kind of stuff. So,
and these are sculpted really well.
Is it like what are they, like bobbleheads or what?
I think that'd have to be something to Google. They're not bobbleheads or
Okay.
Funko Pops.
Funko Pops. Oh, that's what they are?
They're not like that.
Oh, they're not like that. Okay. Yeah, because that's kind of what came to mind as a Funko Pop, and I know that's big now. And I bet a lot of your favorite characters are Funko Pops, aren't they?
I would say like more like mainstream anime or Funko Pops. Yes. God, I don't really have very many actually. I should look into that, but yeah, I think Funko Pops are generally more of a Western thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
They are pretty cool. The only thing is I could see where you could fall down the rabbit hole of having to buy all of your favorite characters that get super expensive. So,
but yeah, it's like going to these cons and like showing off this cosplay that you've worked hard on like all year is very rewarding when people walk up to you and they, when I was like Guts and they say it's like, oh my god, like you look so cool. It's like I love that, like Guts is amazing.
And the other thing I noticed from your Facebook, it looks like a lot of these other characters want to take pictures with you. It seems like, I mean, when you're dressed up as these other characters, it seems like you got pictures with a lot of other people. And are these people you know, or are they people that you just just meet at these conventions?
I mean, some of them I know already. I mean, usually like a lot of them are just kind of like, you know, random people who are just fans of the stuff, who are just fans of anime, and like they see someone like dressed as their favorite character, and they're just like, oh my god, I need a picture with that guy.
Yeah, absolutely, very cool.
Yeah, that. Also, yeah. Another thing I should bring up is so like at these cons, like there's also like after dark, there's there's certain like rooms like set up that actually have like for adults that you can actually have like drinks and like alcohol in them and just kind of party it up in there.
Okay.
Anime Fargo usually has a rave room actually.
Oh my! So
Yeah.
it gets wild at these conventions.
Yeah,
too.
I don't do that.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't. But yeah, actually, some of the best panels, in my opinion, though, are the 18+ ones, because it's like you're kind of allowed to do like a lot crazier stuff. Like for example, there was one I was at that was basically like, so they took like manga and they basically turned it into like Mad Libs.
Okay.
So they were like, or they were basically, people were just like adding like all these like crazy slangs and like actions or whatever to just like fill into the manga, and when someone read them, it turned out like hilarious. It was all these like lewd jokes.
Yep.
All these, like,
well, that sounds like I mean, and have you ever been to any other conventions other than the one in Fargo?
I have not. Sorry to say, but
okay.
I'm trying to fix that though. I'm now that Anime Fargo like isn't happening this year, I'm going to check out ValleyCon, which I think it's in the same place, but I think that one's actually a bit bigger. I noticed that one goes on for like 4 days. And
wow.
Yeah, that one's not specifically anime. That covers like a lot of like, comics, video games, stuff like that.
Very cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, I also wanted to mention, just sort of like where like anime is kind of like now, where it is present day. It's definitely like a lot. It's a lot harder to miss it these days. Like Barnes and Noble, for example, has a huge selection of manga, whereas like back in like the early 2000s, you could really only find that stuff at like Media Play.
Boy, that is a blast from the past. Media Play.
Yeah.
I haven't thought of that in a long time. That's interesting. So now it's, I mean, you can go to Barnes and Noble. They've got all the stuff you want, basically.
Yeah.
Or is there still some comics that you got to go find online? And
I would say before Barnes and Noble, you could really only get this stuff in Fargo either at like Media Play or like Comic Junction. It was definitely a much more niche thing. But it's gotten so popular they can't ignore it anymore. Like Barnes and Noble has realized like, wow, there's this huge market of people who like manga. It's like, we got to get in on this. And it's like, yeah, like they get good sales.
it makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure the sales increase a lot. And like I said, I was just totally blown away to see how big this really was when I did a little research before the show. And it's been a lot of fun learning about a little bit about the culture, a little bit about all the different authors, and all the different stuff behind anime, comics, Comic-Con, all this stuff. And it's been fun having you on the show. Before I let you go, though, and I have to go through, it's kind of like a lightning round where I ask a bunch of stuff. Hopefully we'll find out a little bit more about Alex, not so much about Japanese manga. And in the future, if Alex is willing, hopefully we can have him on the show again. If anything comes up in the Japanese manga or anime world that he wants to talk about, we'll definitely have to have him on again, because I'm sure a lot of people are going to like this episode because it's totally off the wall for the content I create. Alex probably doesn't know, most of my podcast episodes are geared towards technology, YouTube, podcasting. So this is totally different, but it's been a lot of fun to learn something totally new.
Can I make one more quick point, please?
Absolutely.
Okay, real fast here. So like, I want to use the example of Hot Topic, because I remember like when I was a teenager, or like like way before that, Hot Topic was kind of known as like the place for like goth and like emo kids, like all like the mall goths.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of weird how like that, it's so weird, like that place has just like evolved with like my taste, because now when you walk in there, it's like all anime stuff now. Like
Really?
There's a bunch of like anime shirts and merch in there, and I was like, wow. Same with comics. Like basically the nerds like showed up in droves, and now they can't ignore us anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm sure they're, like you said, Barnes and Noble and places like that, are probably making a lot more sales selling people's favorite content, you know? So,
but anyway, I'm done. Go ahead.
Very interesting. All right. Let's see here. First question. What is your favorite video game ever made?
Oh, my favorite video game?
I know some of these questions are going to be tough.
That's hard. I'm just off the top of my head, I'm going to say Final Fantasy X.
Okay. All right. I might know the answer to this one, but who is your favorite actor?
Nicolas Cage.
Yes, that's exactly who I was thinking of when I brought that question up. All right. If you could go out to lunch with anyone in the world, past or present, who would it be?
Past or present? Let's see. I mean, I suppose maybe Kentaro Miura now.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. You guys could probably sit down and have a very interesting conversation.
Yeah, I feel like I should pick someone like more important than that, but like he was such a great writer. I just can't help but like want to know what he would say, you know?
Absolutely. That sounds awesome. All right, you're stranded on a deserted island. You can have one item airlifted to you or airdropped to you. What would that item be?
I mean, other than water.
You can have water. Yep, that's all right.
I mean, can't live on the island without water.
That's true. Good point. Oh. All right. If you were to create your own comic, what would be the subject matter?
Oh, if I were to create my, okay, I would say it would have to be like dark fantasy of some kind. I think it would have to be like, it would have to mix like maybe some sort of like manga style, but also like kind of like a role-playing game of some kind. Like it would kind of be like The Witcher or like maybe Final Fantasy or something like along those lines, but it would have like a really like serious storyline.
And then I have to add too, since you showed me how the artwork and stuff has changed, what would be your style? Would you like illustrations based off of old comics or comics of today?
See, I've always been a sucker for like for 90s style. I don't know why that is. I just kind of like I mean, I don't know. I think I have a bias towards the 90s, but like I just remember that being like a really interesting time, and I don't know. I just like the retro look of 90s art for some reason, but it would be that.
Maybe someday you could do that. It sounds very interesting. I mean, it sounds like I'm sure a lot of people would be interested in that. All right, next question. Favorite food?
I would say probably shrimp hibachi or like sushi of some kind.
Okay. Do you eat? What's your favorite place in Fargo?
Izumi.
Okay.
Izumi.
And is that one that they do the shows kind of?
No, you're thinking of Who Hot.
No. I'm.
Or is it something else?
I'm thinking of the one over by McDonald's. Man, I can't. I go to it once a year with my brother, and it's a sushi place, but they do the.
I think I know what you're talking about, but.
Osaka? Is that what it's called?
Maybe.
Could be. I'm not sure, but all right.
But yeah, shrimp noodle hibachi is really good.
There you go. If you could make a guest appearance on a TV show of your choice, which show would you choose?
Can you repeat that, please?
Yep. So if you could make a guest appearance on any TV show, what would be the TV show you'd want to make an appearance on?
God, that's hard. I don't really watch much TV anymore.
How about a movie? If you could make a guest appearance in any movie, what would that be?
Like, what are we talking? Like a cameo or like a...
Yep. Just you're in the background, kind of like Aaron Rodgers in Game of Thrones. You barely see him.
I would just say like maybe like a big like DC blockbuster of some kind, like the new Batman movie or something like that.
Okay. This is the most important question I've asked all night. This is the one everyone's dying to know. I know our friends are going to want to know this one too.
Okay.
Why are the Minnesota Vikings your favorite football team of all time?
I have no favorite football team of all time.
I knew it. I had to throw that in there. I had to try and twist things to get you to be a Minnesota Vikings fan. But
yeah, I mean, look, nothing against sports. Like I tried a lot of them and I just couldn't get into them.
Yep, that's all right. But we know if you were to like football, maybe you'd consider the Minnesota Vikings as your favorite team.
I mean, are they ever going to win?
Ouch. Yeah, I know. That hurts. Someday they're going to win for me. I hope.
Yeah.
I hope. We'll see. Well, with that, I really want to thank Alex for taking the time out of his day to come over and give us really a history lesson on comics. And like I said, when he came in here, usually I don't have too many guests in studio. Luckily, he's in the same city as me, and he came prepared. He had notes, a couple pages written down. He had a bunch of content. He gave a very cool demonstration with the Japanese pop, which is unbelievable. Just the way you open it blew my mind. It was very cool. So we're definitely going to want to have Alex on again in the future. It's been a lot of fun, and I want to thank you all for listening. I've got a lot of fun stuff planned for the future, and we will see you next week.